It is worth, on this Feast of Divine Mercy, being aware of the Lord's own interventions in the context of this feast. We know that St. John Paul II was the instrument of divine providence in bringing St. Faustina to the fore, for she had been, as it were, put in a drawer indefinitely, but he brought her to the public eye, and it was meant to be so. 10 years ago, a 54-year-old Italian man was shot dead, whose life and death give striking witness to how God works in souls through the Divine Mercy message and devotion. We do well to listen to the story of Ugo Vesta. He was miraculously healed from multiple sclerosis, muscular dystrophy, and epilepsy on August the 2nd, 1990, while praying in front of a Divine Mercy image. Ugo, 39 years old at the time of the healing, had for years scoffed at turning to prayer for relief from physical and mental pain, and from the medical uncertainty that plagued him since childhood. He did not lead a very exemplary life, says his friend Father Seraphim. Ugo, almost out of spite, visited Lourdes 3 years prior to his healing. He did so in an effort to prove his mother-in-law wrong about the healing waters there and the mercy of God. His plan backfired. Though he wasn't healed at Lourdes, he said he was blessed with the sudden conviction that God exists. He immediately endeavored to straighten out his life. But it took Pope John Paul II to clinch the deal. Indeed, on April the 29th, 1990, Ugo was among the tens of thousands of pilgrims in St. Peter's Square for the beatification of Father Philip Rinaldi. In addition to his other ailments, Ugo was suffering from memory loss, incontinence, and deficiency of sight due to nerve damage. In a wheelchair and clearly suffering, Ugo caught the attention of Mother Teresa, who bent down and gave him a hug. Members of her entourage handed him copies of the Divine Mercy image and a Divine Mercy medallion. Ugo knew nothing of Divine Mercy, nothing about St. Faustina, whose Divine Mercy revelations Pope John Paul II promoted. After the Mass itself, Ugo was among a group of sick and handicapped people in St. Peter's Square. As the Pope approached the group, Ugo held out the medallion and the images for the Holy Father to bless. The Pope obliged. He made the sign of the cross and then asked Ugo, "How do you feel?" Ugo responded that he felt terrible and was going through a deep moral and spiritual crisis. The Holy Father asked, "How is it possible that you're in a crisis when you have the merciful Jesus with you? Go to Trent and entrust yourself to his merciful heart and to my sister Faustina." The Holy Father was referring to the Villa or Sanctissima, where the Divine Mercy image and devotion were being propagated. He went there out of obedience, but he wasn't expecting anything extraordinary, of course. Ugo would later tell Father Seraphim that he was turned off by the way people prayed there. It was all a bit too much for him, too effusive. Still, for 3 days he prayed, his head bent down so as not to see what others were doing. Through his prayers, Ugo overcame the cause of his spiritual crisis, which was the bitterness he felt against his mother, who abandoned him at a young age. Extraordinary graces still awaited him. On the 4th day, as he sat in his wheelchair in front of an image of Divine Mercy, Ugo saw the Lord come out from the image and walk toward him with his hands outstretched. Ugo didn't want to believe it. He turned away, and so Jesus returned to the image. This happened 5 times, Ugo would later tell Father Seraphim. After the 5th time, I expressed what was on my mind. If it's really you, lift me up, because I can't move. He then heard Jesus say in a clear voice, "Rise up and walk." Ugo felt himself being raised from the wheelchair. His atrophied legs were suddenly of normal size. He began to walk. In fact, he ran out of the chapel, Father Seraphim says with a laugh. I don't remember if he was frightened or what. Ugo settled in a pew in the main chapel. he reports that he had a vision of a nun. She was smiling. He didn't recognize her. When he later saw a picture of St. Faustina, he identified her as the nun he saw in his vision. Doctors declared that he was healed and that the healing had no scientific basis. On August the 29th, 1990, Ugo again found himself before Pope John Paul II in St. Peter's Square. This time he was standing tall. After telling the Holy Father what happened, the Holy Father told him to continue entrusting himself to Jesus and to continue praying to St. Faustina. He dedicated the rest of his life to spreading divine mercy, serving the poor and infirm in hospitals and on the streets in Italy and Africa. He would hand out Divine Mercy prayer cards and encourage people to pray the Divine Mercy chaplet and venerate the Divine Mercy image as Christ himself encouraged through St. Faustina in her visions in the 1930s. Christ promises many graces to those who venerate the image. Ugo would be diagnosed with cancer in 2005. He told his friends he wasn't fearful. He put his trust in Jesus. Then, on May the 22nd, 2005, in Italy, he was found dead from gunshots to his head. 2 individuals were arrested. The motive is not known, but Father Seraphim says that he did predict this. He said that his work in the streets was putting his life in danger, but he was willing to die for it. Regina Ceni Letare, Alleluia, quiuque mero esti portare, Alleluia, resurrexit sicut dixit, Alleluia, ora pro nobis Deum, Alleluia.